Hello for the final time. This is the Halo After Show. Tonight we are talking the season finale, with which is Transcendence. I think that's the title of the season finale. This is Shaun.
And this is Christopher, special guest, Halo Head.
Yeah, Chris is in Disney right now. There he is. Him and old Goofy Chris is with his patron saint.
Which one's Chris and which one's Goofy? I think
I
is the
don't
biggest
know.
question.
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell which one's which, but he's enjoying himself down in Florida right now. But you and I are going to discuss Halo, of course. We're going to discuss the final episode, episode 9, and I think have a short discussion about the whole season in general. I'd like to get your opinion on what your thoughts and feelings were for the
Yeah,
show as a whole.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so just first thoughts. What do you think of this episode?
I uh I like this episode. Again, I'm trying to take my Halo Head criticism out of the whole thing, right? Because I feel like this is a completely separate, canon versus non-canon or whatever to call it. But
Right.
I thought it was a good episode. The action scenes were good. I wish they were a little longer. But I think as far as going towards more of like the traditional Halo story, I can kind of see where this episode goes into that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to jump too far ahead, but that's my spiel.
I thought it was kind of I felt like there weren't any surprises, right? I feel like they were leading us in a certain direction and they didn't really leave a lot of loose ends as far as the plot and the threads that they had going on throughout season 1. I thought they kind of wrapped it up nice and tidy,
Yeah,
leaving, the door open for season 2. I'm surprised that, spoiler alert, I'm surprised all the Spartans are still with us.
yeah. Which it's again, not trying to jump ahead. I feel like we've got a pretty good story before we catch up to kind of where the game was.
Yeah.
So and I'm excited to see how this goes now because again, I'm not trying to jump ahead, but it sounds like we might have a different type of character on our hands now. So yeah. Anyways,
Right. I feel like, well, yeah, we'll get there, but I expected, I guess, a more of an earth-shattering event at the end of this thing to really change the landscape of
mm,
the Halo universe, but
mhm.
really not much has changed besides who has control of the artifact and, John as a character, but I feel like that could probably be pretty easily resolved in a
Yeah,
season 2.
yeah,
Um, but we'll just kind of go through quickly the events of this episode. So John wakes up. He's all, broken nose, beaten up, bloodied face. The end of the last episode, there's just a big explosion. Was it the artifact itself that caused that ruckus?
right. So we had McKee touch the artifact. It's almost like an EMP went through the whole base.
Right.
Everyone's knocked out. Um, and then yeah, we wake up to John. But John also had just gotten punched, I'm pretty sure, pretty hard before the
Yeah,
EMP or
Vanek was
after the
beating him
EMP.
up pretty good.
Yeah, really bad. So
Yeah, he wakes up and he runs and he finds that McKee is gone. Basically, Miranda tells him that McKee took the artifact. She hightailed it out of there. So then he splits, runs down the hallway another way, and he's stopped by Vanek, who's holding a pistol to Kai.
and
And they have this whole
I thought
standoff scene.
there was okay, so when Master Chief first stood up, there was a Spartan on the ground, right? That said, "Go ahead, Chief, I'm okay."
Yeah, it was Kai. Yeah,
But then run down the hall, now there's all three of them right there.
right. So literally in the show, I guess maybe there's a few minutes in real time, but in the show, it's only like maybe less than a minute, and all of a
Yeah,
sudden Kai's got the other Spartans on her. It was a little
yeah,
jarring. Yeah,
yeah. And at first I wasn't sure if it was Kai or if it was not
Riz.
Bennett. Riz, yeah,
Yeah.
because and I thought about it because in the books, Kai or Riz were supposed to be like the fastest Spartans ever. So in my
Mm.
mind, I was like, oh, she just caught up really quick, and then but anyways, so yeah, they have her there, pistols to her head, and then pistol towards Master Chief.
I That's interesting. I thought maybe these Spartans were created for the show, the Silver Team. So these characters were actually in the books.
Yeah, I don't my again, I read the books a long time ago. My memory's a little
Yeah.
fuzzy, but like the sniper rifle having like the super strong one, the sniper, and like one of the super fast ones. Those are all characteristics from the books.
Okay.
I can't confirm the names are the same or not, but yeah, it's very similar Spartan characteristics.
So we've got the 4 Spartans. They've been opposed pretty much most of the season. It's something I called in that there was tension between even in the first episode, I thought they alluded to it a little bit.
Hmm.
Just kind of the break between Master Chief and the other 3, and then the
Yeah,
break between divided in 2 between Kai and John and then the other 2. And it finally comes to a head here. The last episode, uh, John and Kai they try to tell Riz and Vanek the truth about where they came from, about their childhoods, about everything that happened, and they really aren't believing him until Captain Keyes walks up and just kind of admits to everything right in front of Miranda.
yeah. I love that scene. I mean, it was like one tension went down, and then the other side, the tension went straight up because the
Yeah,
Spartans are like, okay, and then Miranda's like, "Don't talk to me ever, Dad."
right. It was a
So
it was a big move for him to finally admit it, but I mean, in that moment, what else are you gonna do? Like,
yeah,
lay your cards on the table and just we got to move on.
yeah, yeah. Literally, the last hope for mankind is right there in front of him, and he just has to. He's gonna save
Right.
it. So
He's got to bite the bullet.
yeah,
Um, so they split up at that point. So Vanek and Riz, they're back on board, listening to Master Chief's orders.
yep,
The 3 of them, Master Chief, Vanek, and Riz, they run after McKee.
hmm,
And Kai, she's like, I've got Halsey. So she's running after Halsey's ship. John and the Spartans, they don't make it in time. They
yep,
run out the building just in time to see the Covenant ship already taken off, and it's too late.
yeah. So it's
Uh,
called a Phantom, and the design of it looked really good. Everything up to like the engine flaring up, the sound, pretty good compared to the video game. So I like that. And
mhm.
then yeah, Kai's outside with the Marine. She's sprinting past the Marines,
Yeah,
and
that was a cool scene. Her running at full speed past everybody else.
just lapping them, man. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
And then yeah, Hosley and call him Captain Dumbass. I think his name's Aiden or Adon. I think.
something like that. Anyway, he's dead. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Well, their ship got hit with the EMP from the artifact, so they're trying to reboot, I guess.
Yeah,
And then she just leaps onto it.
yeah. Kai, yeah, she leaps right on the thing. She breaks her way in, lickety split, and she's just yelling at Halsey the whole time, like, "What's my name?" Uh,
I thought I said Kai's about to die because she didn't have her helmet on,
yeah, I
and
thought so too.
Adon, Aiden, Captain or Doctor Dumbass is in the background. I was like,
Right.
if he's got any kind of gun at all, she's done. I thought that was her. I thought they were gonna kill her off right then and there.
All
But
he
then
did
he
was like
picks,
hit her with a rod or something.
yeah, like a big old wrench or something, and then
Yeah,
immediately he knows he's like, damn, I messed up.
just enough to like piss her off, and she
Yeah,
just like throws him through the roof.
yeah,
Um, and then she goes after Halsey, and I guess she kind of makes a split decision. Like it's either Halsey or try to take control of this ship because I guess it's heading down. It might be I don't know if it's heading towards civilians or something. But it's imminent. It's crashing, and she's trying to take control of it.
I gotta give credit. I mean, Hosley is she's so smart. The way she, as soon as she saw that Kai was distracted, she took off to the pod and
Yeah.
bye.
What's the old saying? Those who fight and run away live to fight another day.
Yeah, I
Like a
guess.
classic, like 1980s cartoon villain.
I've never heard that before. I guess I'm just a winner, so I don't know.
um,
um,
but yeah, so I mean, there was a moment there where, like you said, I thought Kai was dead, especially when the ship crashes and the comms go out,
yeah,
and then you see her hand come up and she lifts
I would have
herself out of
been
there.
I would have been pretty disappointed if that was the way she died because like we've
Yeah,
seen Master Chief and his armor survive the most crazy. I mean, literally we see them drop from a ship all the way down. It's just like,
right.
so I'm glad they didn't kill her off in that part.
Yeah, just a little ship crashing on top of you. Who
Yeah,
cares?
in a major city, right?
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah,
So John and the Spartans, yeah, they see the Covenant ship fly away, and finally John, he's kind of like he's out of options, and he just says, "Cortana, now's the time I need you. Now I need you."
yeah, yeah. Which is cool because I think I was excited because now we see this real relationship that we're used to
Right.
blossom, right?
Yeah. And that's where we see the next scene. It's he and Cortana just kind of like playing sleuths, going over the evidence, and they deduce that it's this covenant religious site is actually where McKee told them it was. It's just
Hmm.
kind of being hidden by these magnetic fields that are kind of like hiding the thing in plain sight.
Yeah, like the shards of glass or like the fragments of like
Right.
matter around the planet, or they're I don't even know if it's a planet, right? It was so weird.
Yeah.
Um, which I was kind of excited because the way High Charity looks in the video games, and High Charity is where all the Covenant are at, and we saw that in the first couple episodes. I
That
was
was that
excited
very like organic looking thing in like the first two episodes.
cloudy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's high charity, but it ended up being just like I guess a religious site for them, right?
Right. Yeah. We'll talk about. I had feelings on what this site looked like.
Yeah. Yeah. So
um
yeah.
Yeah, they figured out where it is. Parangoski, she's like, I'll send 10,000 of our troops. John's like, I mean, we're just gonna go in by ourselves at this point. Just send the Spartans in. We got this.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping it would have been cool to see like that big scene though, I was kind of
Yeah,
hoping that'd be the scene like of the Spartans leading the charge,
right.
but yeah, we didn't get it.
Parangoski, she also has a moment with John where she's like, going forward, put John aside. We need Master Chief out there on the
Yeah.
field. Um, and I think ultimately she's right. I mean, this whole time it's been like, let's explore this guy, John, for the first time. Let's see who he really is. But when push comes to shove and like this is the final moment and we needed Master Chief to be Master Chief
Yeah.
without any hesitation or anything. So I kind of agreed with her.
Yeah, and I know we kind of missed this, but how funny was it? A little awkward when she asked about when Master Chief and oh my goodness, McKee had their
Hmm.
moment of talking and intimacy, and she was like, "Cortana, were you there? Like, did you experience it too?" And she was like, "Kind of." I thought it was
Yeah,
pretty
in
funny.
my own way.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, no, the conversation that John Master Chief was given, I think that was good, and she's a smart lady too. I feel like she's been through some things
Right.
and really saying, "Hey, like we need you to be 100% focused on this."
Yeah. Um, there's also a conversation before the Spartans head out. Captain Keyes comes up and basically apologizes, but even he says, like, I mean, how could I even apologize for something like that? It's, kind of crazy. But John, all he really says is that someday there's going to be a reckoning for all of us, and that day's not today.
Yeah, and obviously that leaves another door open for us to kind of like just start making up plots in our head, right? Like what's going to
Right.
happen? Is he talking about like revenge? Is it just reckoning for them in general? So yeah,
Yeah. It leaves the door open for future conversations. The way this episode ends, it's in question whether or not we'll get that conversation. But like I said, I think that's an easy fix come season two, and we
yeah,
know there's going to be a season two already. It's like it's a done deal. When
yeah.
we get it is another question, but it's definitely on its way.
And I don't think I'm jumping ahead here, but when the Spartans took off, um, their Pelican, their ship that they're on,
Hmm.
it looked modified. It looked bigger. It looked almost stronger. They had their logo on the side, the Silver Team like
Oh,
wolf logo
okay.
on the side. Um, I don't know if there's any other Halo heads out there listening, but I don't know if I was the only one that noticed that, or maybe it's just we haven't seen the Pelican from the side yet. Maybe that zoomed in.
Yeah.
So it definitely looked a little bit bigger and just more modified than the regular ones did.
I
So
wonder if that was a plot point that got edited out in the cutting room floor because later in the episode, when they're going through the magnetic fields or whatever,
mhm,
it's a question whether the whole is going to stick together.
yeah, yeah,
And it does ultimately. Master Chief's pretty confident that it does. So maybe that was a kind of a dropped plot point.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so they take off, right? They're going to head out. Just the Spartans. Cortana's with them. Cortana has a moment. So it's like Parangoski has a moment with John, then Captain Keyes. Now Cortana, she's making her confessions. She tells him all about how, Halsey had this plan where she was just going to take over and dispose of the John portion of Master Chief,
yeah.
and she's going to be the best of both worlds. And he kind of takes it in stride.
It's interesting to see this AI becoming more and more human-like, like
Yeah.
confessing and having emotions and saying no and almost like going against her programming. But it's cool to see that bond she's creating with Master Chief.
Yeah, finally. It took quite a few episodes of them kind of going at each other and him being so dismissive.
Yeah,
But I've liked it. I like it when they work together.
yeah.
I prefer it.
And I
Um,
love seeing her pop up too, because again,
yeah,
from the video game, and I think they did a really good job on making her not real, but you know where I'm going with that. It's not like an anime or a graphic design. It's like a real Cortana here on the show, and I think
yeah,
they did a really good job with the voice, especially. It looks is perfect. So
right. And yeah, it really worked. And I love it's. I'm fairly certain it's the same voice that when you boot up Windows for the first time and she's going through it, it's the Cortana that's talking to you.
yeah, yeah,
Um, because every time she's talking to John and stuff, it's like I know that voice. I've had to reboot and install Windows enough times to where
right,
that voice is very familiar.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, they're going through, and this is when they hit this magnetic field, whatever, in this system,
yeah.
and yeah, the ship's going crazy. Vanek's freaking out. You know, Riz and Kai are just getting thrown in the back of the ship.
Trying to keep it
Um,
not on fire, right? Put all the fires out
yeah,
and moving the
and
auxiliary power to the engines and shields. And
what do you think of this moment though when John it's almost like he uses the force, like he just lets go. He just like just keep it straight and like he's piloting this thing like on instinct. Um, what's that about?
yeah, I don't know. I feel like it would have been almost opposite, because now that John has like all his emotions back, and like these instinctive behaviors versus like his trained programming, I
Yeah,
could have seen like the opposite, like Vanek taking over versus him, because he's more focused and less like scared, right?
right.
But I think John trusting Cortana, right, saying
Yeah,
keep it straight, follow this equilibrium line to this electricity field or whatever it is,
yeah,
and he just does it, right? He trusts her, and he just go, and they lost her, right? She was coming in and out, and she faded and was gone, and he was like, well,
right.
keep it straight. So
And I love when they finally broke through that magnetic field and they could see the star field around them again.
yeah.
Cortana pops back up and she's like, "Oh, good, you're still alive."
Right, right. Or even like when she was like, "Well, I didn't want to tell you your chances of making it, because, you were
Right.
already like on your way or something." So
Yeah, it's funny, like, how she's somehow at the same time, she's, like, smarmy and sarcastic, but also very matter of fact.
yeah.
Yeah, it just works for her. It's a good character beat.
Oh yeah.
Um,
So do we miss Hosley getting captured? And was there an
um,
interaction between the Covenant and McKee getting back, or no?
there's not a lot with Halsey in this episode, so we could really kinda go through the entire thing.
Okay.
With her story. So Halsey, she escapes the ship as it's going down once Kai
Yeah.
broke into it. The next time we see her, she's just running in a field.
Hmm.
Which immediately I was kind of suspicious. Like, we didn't really see her get off the ship, and now she's just randomly running in a field. Okay.
Yeah.
She gets caught by, a battalion of troops, and, she kinda goes in quietly, easily. There's a slow-mo scene their slow-mo, scene where she's being kinda pushed through a hallway. She sees her ex-husband. She sees Miranda. She gets put in this interrogation room, and, Miranda comes in, and I tells her something, some kinda jurisdictional thing. What I got from that scene is that she was telling her that she was gonna be executed for, like, treason.
Yeah. Well, she was like Article 17 or something. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, tell us what's Article 17.
Right, yeah, we don't
And
know.
well, just the fact like she's too dangerous to lock up, or too dangerous to like be kept alive, or too dangerous to put in exile,
Yeah,
which they're all right, and you don't want to. I also felt like you don't want to get rid of something that you can use in the future.
right. And I
Um,
took it that it was something of like either she was gonna be locked up the rest of her life or some kind of execution or something because Miranda almost kind of took pleasure and she wanted to be the one to deliver that news.
yeah,
She's so over her own mom that she wanted to be the bearer of bad news there.
yeah,
But later in the episode, after that scene, well, in that scene, Halsey kind of tells her, "I tried to keep you away from this, but ultimately it ended up doing the opposite. And now you're kind of thrust in the middle of this, and don't go chasing ghosts, that kind of thing." Just kind of giving her a warning. But like at this point, after all Halsey's done, like anything that comes out of her mouth, you just gotta kind of roll your eyes and not even listen to it.
yeah, yeah. It could be the best advice, or it could be the biggest trap, right?
Right? Yeah, yeah. So I don't blame Miranda. She just kind of doesn't say anything and leaves the room.
Hmm.
Um, And we find out that her dad, Captain Keyes, was using one of those VR thing. He was in a recliner the whole time, but he was watching him in that room during that scene.
Yeah.
So we get kind of a progress and kind of a bow tie for that family dynamic and that plot thread throughout the season.
Mhm.
Um, but the
Were you
next time we see her, oh, go ahead.
were you surprised that she didn't call her out on, like, the kidnapping? Well, I mean, she kinda did, but, like, wasn't more do you
Like
think
they
she was
didn't have
just saying
more of a
all
conversation about it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. I feel like maybe there should have been a conversation there. Maybe they were just trying to keep the momentum of the episode going, though.
yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah, because it seems like everything with Halsey was kind of truncated. Because the next time we see her, she's having a seizure,
Yeah,
and right when she was having a seizure, I was like, okay,
and they did the flashbacks of her quotes about the clone kids, yeah.
yeah,
You know, I didn't even think about that whole scenario, about her still being out there until I saw the seizure and blood, and I was like, "Wait," and then the quotes came, I was like, "Oh, yeah."
yeah. And Miranda, it's like me and Miranda figured it out at the exact same moment. Because immediately Miranda was like, "Oh, that's not her."
"Where is she? Where is she?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it is pretty clever. I mean, Halsey as a character, she's interesting. She's ultimately kind of an antagonist for this show, like her in the Covenant. And it's like I always thought that like she was almost like a Dr. Smith character. It's like she's kind of an anti-hero, kind of she's not like a total enemy, but
yeah, and it's interesting that you think she's more of, like, an antagonist or bad guy because I don't see her that way at all.
yeah.
Um, and again, depending on how the whole story goes, I mean, she's gonna come back towards hopefully the back end of this and might be another plot twist later, but, yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with her character.
I can
Um,
see there being like a crunch time and the UNSC has their backs against the wall and she just swoops in and does something to like
mhm,
save their asses. I can see that too.
yeah,
Um, because yeah, she's a very interesting character and her dynamic between everyone else. I think the only reason I feel that way about her is because of how everyone else feels about her.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
I mean, don't get me
all the
wrong, she's a
Spartans.
messed up person, right? Everything
Right.
she did and, um, but again, it's, kinda what they were saying earlier, it's like, if she didn't do it, we wouldn't even be here anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but, I kinda wanna, like, reveal a secret, but I don't know if I should or not. So, you talked about, like, the UNSC being their backs against the wall, but it might
Right.
be other people who actually need our help versus just them. So
Oh, interesting.
so, yeah, but anyways, we'll keep it going.
But yeah, so Halsey, that's it. We do see a kind of a coda at the end of the episode where we do see the real Halsey. Do you know which planet she was on? Where was she at? Do you know?
It had to be Reach because,
Yeah.
wait, are you talking about when she was, like, writing in her diary?
At the very end of the episode, she's got the white coat on and she's walking
Yeah.
away with some dude.
So, the reason I think it's Reach is because, like, on the I look at the signs, right? The signage is like
Mhm.
Reach Aquarium this way, the memorial of, like, Reach
Right.
something or, like, the past history of Reach. And then, yeah, a guy in a suit walks up and goes, "Dr. Halsey, come with me," or something, and then
Yeah.
they're off.
Which I found interesting because by the end of this episode, she's marked as a traitor and wanted, and
Yeah.
what kind of wanted dead or alive. So she's got some sort of mark and bounty on her, and she's a well-known figure in the galaxy. So I assume that she's working along somebody that's outside the UNSC and is some sort of like maybe like a private entity. I don't know.
So my thought process is, I don't know his title in the series. I forgot it, but like Lord, we call him Lord Hood or Commander Hood. Remember him? I
Hmm.
wonder if he's doing anything on the side to help her. And that's just me throwing it out there. That's nothing from the video game, anything like that. But he's a big admirer of her, right? And we haven't seen him
Right.
really since episode 2, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's
So
true.
I'm wondering if he has something to do with it.
Maybe whisked her away and is she's in a safe house somewhere.
Yeah, here's a brand new laboratory on a different planet, right?
Right.
So
I mean,
yeah,
it is interesting that she was on I thought that's why I was thinking that maybe she was on some other planet, but if she's on Reach, which is such a populated, UNSC filled planet, it's kind of interesting that she's there. She's kind of like hiding in plain sight.
no one's looking for her though, right?
Right, yeah.
So
Um, but that's pretty much all we get with Halsey. Kind of
yeah,
that just to summarize everything that she does in this episode.
yep.
Um, so the Spartans, they've made it through the magnetic field. They get to this religious spot of the Covenant. I gotta be honest. This whole it looked like green screen. It looked like Xbox One, like original Xbox graphics, not like even 360 or
Really?
Xbox One X. It looked
I
rough
I
to
think I
me.
was so just focused on like this battle's about to go down. I was trying to
Yeah,
take in like all the characters, the weapons, because I really cared about that. Um, I did notice the statue of the elites on both sides. Kind of gave like Jedi Temple vibes or like Lord of the
yeah,
Ring, Gondor vibes, right? Um, and I mean, even like when McKee gets there and she delivers everything, you have the elites like dressed up as what do they call them? Um, almost like royal guards, right?
right.
And they had this whole new outfit for her, and they don't interrogate her at all, but they're kind of like, you delivered this and this, but where's the demon's head?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that McKee brought the artifact back for them, but I mean, they have no intention of like they don't really care about her. We kind of, I guess, get confirmation in this episode that they were totally just using her
Yeah,
the entire time, and she's still hopeful that she can be a part of this whole, But I don't know if
the
she
great
realizes that she's
journey,
gonna
right?
the great journey, yeah. But does she realizes that they're just gonna sacrifice her and kill her, and or does she think that she has some spot with them?
Well, so I'm curious how much she knows about the great journey and kind of Halo itself. Because the goal is for the Covenant to activate Halo, right?
Hmm.
And then whatever happens from there is still a mystery to most of the fans. But we the gamers knows what happens when Halo's activated. It literally can be a weapon, destroy everything. So I'm curious how much she actually knows about when Halo's activated, like how much can be destroyed, and if she knows she's a pawn or just a piece.
Right.
Um, and I think I told Chris this before. In the video games, a lot of the times when the Covenant needed something to be activated or turned on or touched, they used a human to do it.
Mm,
So that was kind of like their cheat code, I feel like, 'cause she can just get us all the way there and then boom, knock her out and we're there. We're done.
yeah. That's how I felt about her addition to this story is that, I mean, why not? If the Covenant could use a human to not only, mess directly with the artifact itself, but still, like, go in undercover. Like, none of them could, go into the UNSC and, like, be that close. They'd
Yeah.
die on sight. So yeah, I thought that was interesting, and I know a lot of Halo heads out there have like not really cared for her addition into this story, but it made sense to me. I thought it was pretty good writing and pretty good story, and it's done right. I mean, she dead
Yeah.
by the end of
I
this.
I consider it kind of fluff to add to like the drama and the whole like deeper story. But
Right.
I did like it. It was kind of cool to see like a human was amongst them, kind of
Hmm.
how we got to where we're at in the video game and where we might go from the show. Yeah, I mean it was extra piece, but it wasn't bad.
Um, so I saw how this setting looked, and to me, it just looked. It was like a desert, with kind of a like religious site or a castle. Everything had a really clean plastic sheen on it. Like it
Yeah,
looked very CG to me.
yeah.
Even the character models looked a little like not enough polygons were going on there. Not enough debris,
Yeah,
and it just seemed a little off. But I mean, as soon as the guys, as the Spartans were about to actually do a halo drop off the ship and drop onto the site, then
yeah.
I was back into it.
Yeah, the orbital drop was cool, and then just the
Yeah,
way I mean, that it felt like a video game, right? It felt like
right.
you're about this it's like the movie before the mission starts, and then you're live.
Yeah.
Um, I do wanted to say before we go too deep into it, the sleeping grunts, the way they're kinda huddled up, that's how they are in the video game. If you're quiet enough, you'll walk on a bunch of sleeping grunts and you knock them out, and then the bigger bad guys come out, right? So, that was
No,
cool to
that
see.
totally went over my head. That's funny.
Yeah, yeah, and even like, I think one of the Spartans knocked off one of the gas mask, and you can kind of see it like choking and gasping. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you don't do that in the video game, but you see the masks that they wear and stuff. So it was cool to see.
See, that's nice. Nice little attention to detail there. That
Yeah,
me not being a guy that plays the games, it went right over my head.
yeah,
Um, but they're making their way to this site closer and closer, between sharpshooting and Master Chief just kind of getting closer. They're taking, the outer perimeter out as they get closer to the center here. and one of them spots the Spartans. Then what's the name of the two like head Covenant guys, like the two priests?
So you
The two,
have regret
yeah,
and oh
Regret's
goodness.
brother.
Yeah, it'll come to me. You put me on the spot. Yeah, regret and
But
it's
they
it's a
are
very
they
similar word.
are they two actual characters from the
Yeah.
games from the books? Okay,
Yep. Yeah, they actually are. So it was cool to
and
it's cool to see that.
they
I
so
want to
you
say
know
one's like prophet of truth and prophet regret, I think.
okay.
But we'll fact check me later on that one.
Yeah, so they're kind of tipped off that the Spartans are there, and then essentially what happens is I don't know, they kind of send everybody out. They release the masses, and now this huge horde comes out. There's like hundreds of I don't know, there's probably a specific type of covenant that comes out of these mountains, but they're all charging towards them.
Yeah, so it looked like it was a mix of elites, which are the bigger ones,
Hmm.
like like the four mouths, and then the grunts, and then you kind of had the brutes, the bigger ones that almost look like a mix between like a gorilla and a bear, that were
Yeah.
just kind of showed up too. So I think something, gosh, we should have wrote this down. Something happened that caused them all to come out though, right? Because they were doing pretty good, getting closer and closer and closer. And then did John see her, or did
I can't
someone got caught out or something?
I can't really remember what happened. I know there was one lookout
Yeah,
that was sort of near to where, McKee was, and he saw something, but yeah, I'm not sure what actually triggered him seeing them come closer. Yeah, I
yeah,
forget. But I think there was an event that made them basically kind of tipped them off that they
yeah.
were on their way.
And one thing I want to throw out there too, like the visors. I love the different visor colors that the Spartans have. I feel like that stood out to me more this episode than others.
Hmm.
Also, the when you get like I call it the hood, but like the first person view of the Spartans when you're like in their
Yeah.
helmet and you kind
Hmm.
of see like what their layouts. If you notice in like the left or right corner, there's like a little radar, and they did really good. That's like directly from the video game, where like when you're
Oh,
playing,
cool.
you have like a motion detector, and the blue is your team, like the red or orange are the enemy. So they did really good. I kept up with that the whole series, and every time there was a fight scene, you would see those little dots on there. So that was cool to see.
Nice. Yeah,
Um,
another attention to detail there.
yeah, yeah,
Um, what happens? Oh, so basically they get overwhelmed. I mean, they're trying, they're sharpshooting, they're doing what they can, but there's just so many of these things. One starts really kind of pounding on Master Chief, which McKee sees. You could tell
yeah.
she feels bad about it. She was desperate to try to do something to help him. She ends up touching the artifact. Another big shockwave comes out, and she goes in the trance. She's back in the field where that we saw it a few episodes ago.
I laugh because Truth and Regret were like, "Oh, look, it's showing us the way to Halo." And they're like, they have no idea she's even touching the artifact, right?
Yeah, it's like it pumped all this information. That's another thing. It looked like it shot a big like, screen in the sky. All of a sudden we were seeing these equations in the sky, and
Yeah,
it looked like we were in some kind
like
of digital
a
realm.
star map, right, with a bunch of
Yeah.
yeah.
They didn't write it down though, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I guess with the way and kind of see how I can see it going is the Spartans kind of record, I guess, from their helmet. So maybe they got some
Ah,
glimpses at
okay.
it. Because I
Yeah,
think one of them said, "Are you seeing this, or did you see that, or something?"
right.
Um, but yeah, that brute before she touched it, I mean, that brute with his hammer, that the game, there's a gravity hammer, so they call him in the game, and
Mhm.
when he had Master Chief's head down, and you see that his visor started cracking, I was like, dang, it's about
Yeah.
to something's about to happen.
Yeah, it's getting
So
close. And if she hadn't have done what she did when she did it, that might have been it for John.
yeah,
But yeah, she's stuck to the artifact basically. She's in her happy place in the zone. John decides to start to stumble towards her, and he gets there, he touches it, he goes in the trance. They meet at this special field of flowers again. She's all like, "Hey, isn't it so wonderful? Like, hey, you're here." She's like, yeah, she's happy.
yeah,
But he's trying to talk her down. Like, I guess he's of the opinion, like he tells her to let go, and to basically not go in the light. They have this kind of disagreement, and all of a sudden we see that she's wounded right in the center mass of her, and it turns out
yeah.
she got shot.
Yeah, Vanek's like, get him back in the game, and Kai's like, okay,
Yeah.
boom, shoot her anywhere, but not the stomach or the head. And I guess she goes right for the stomach.
Yeah, and John snaps out of it at that point. He sees that Kai's the one holding the gun, and she doesn't
She
I mean,
she
she
apologized, didn't she? She said, Chief, I'm sorry," or
right, which I guess makes sense because she probably knows that they had some sort of a connection, maybe.
yeah.
I don't know, like, how much of it is known that those 2 were hooking up?
Okay, so before I completely forgot to mention this, when they're loading up to go get her on the Pelican, uh, I think one of them makes a joke like, "We're gonna go get Zora," and then
Oh,
he's
Vanek was just double checking the mission, like, "We're just grabbing the artifact, right?" Yeah,
but I
and
think didn't Kai say her name's McKee or something though? Like, didn't
yeah, I kinda
so
missed that because it went by so quick, but I think they
yeah,
were kind of joking on Master Chief, like,
yeah,
yeah, which one's mission
yeah.
critical here?
Like we're not stupid. So
Yeah,
yeah, so she goes down and Master Chief realizes like, hey, there's still a battle going on, right?
right.
Um,
And essentially, well, at this point, the only way to save the other Spartans, because at this point, even though Kai put McKee down, they're being overrun. There's, I don't know, you probably know the specific type of gun or grenade that was used, but
yeah,
something hit
plasma.
Vanek.
uh,
Yeah, Vanek
Yeah.
goes down.
So
Um,
yeah, so we'll start with him. Look like so in the game, your plasma pistols, the little ones, you can actually
hmm
charge them up where they send like a pretty bad like blast to you, and it takes your
hmm
shields out. So that was that, and then
Riz got hit by something, and Kai went to go
Riz.
help her.
The grunts are infamous for doing. They have the plasma pistols and they have plasma grenades. So in
hmm
the game, if like there's only one grunt left, the grunt will literally run at you with plasma grenades. Like a kamikaze almost. So
Right.
yeah, the plasma grenades in the game will actually stick to you no matter what. So usually, if you get stuck, you're dead. So one got the plasma grenade hit her shoulder, went off. Luckily, she was okay, but her armor was all blasted and stuff. Um, and then I think Kai was just down from one of the brutes, maybe, or she got knocked down again because she was out of commission.
Yeah, well, I think she went to go help Riz, and then this grenade goes off and kind of gets both of
Right.
them in the
She
blast.
said, "Get away from me," and then boom, they're both
Yeah.
out. Yeah. One thing
So they're
I was gonna bring up is so did you notice? And I'm kind of going back a little bit when McKee touched the artifacts and like the star map came out after
mhm,
the big wave happened. When the elites got back up, they're kind of kneeling, right? Kind of
mm,
like not praying, but kind of like showing respect almost to like the
okay,
artifact. So the in the game, the elites are very like much committed to this religious whole great journey thing. The
right,
brutes, on the other hand, are like more carefree, like are just more like muscle and don't really
yeah,
care. It's more like a power move, right?
right,
So I feel like the brutes were up fighting right away, and the elites are over here, kneeling down, kind of giving respect. So
yeah,
it's a small attention to detail there, but yeah. Anyways,
yeah,
so
nice character beat, something
yeah,
that yeah, that once again, that went right by me. I did
yeah.
not notice that.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Master Chief walks out and's like, "Well, we need the artifact, but we also need the Spartans, and there's no way I can do
yeah.
both, right?"
Yeah, and he tells Cortana, he's like, "You can do it, I can't do it, but you can do it." And Cortana's hesitant, of course. This is not what she wants. She's even told John this. He's pretty insistent, and then he tells her, "I trust you," and she commits to him, like, "I'll find a way to bring you back." So I feel like maybe this is where we lead into a season two. It almost be like after the Star Trek Wrath of Khan was Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.
Yeah.
Spock sacrifices himself, and then the next movie they bring him back somehow.
Right. Right. So I have a question for you. So Master Chief says this, and then he walks out and almost like a slow pitch going to a baseball player, and the brute just does a home run grand slam on his face.
Yeah.
Do you think he had to lose consciousness for Cortana to take over, or do you think Cortana can just take over like that? Like, do you think he did it on purpose, or was he like, "I'm gonna make myself completely vulnerable, where I'm gonna be dead until so that she has to help me"?
Oh, that's interesting. I had assumed that Cortana can't take over unless he's unconscious and or dead.
Okay,
Um, that's what I assumed.
okay, okay.
Because earlier during that scene where John had thrown Halsey into that decontamination thing and had that like poison gas that was about to kill her.
She couldn't do anything because he was conscious.
Yeah, and he was
Yeah.
like testing her limits, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
So that's what my assumption was.
So okay, so we're gonna agree that the brute had to knock him out for Cortana to take over.
Yeah, that's what
I
I
I
th-
agree with that. I agree with that.
and I think that's why he was just like willingly kind of getting shot and kind of slow walking
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. And then we have a reboot of Master Chief, right? And we get the real Master Chief.
This amalgamation, yeah, he goes into beast mode. Well, Cortana goes over his, laid out body and she touches his chest. Then she kind of disappears into him. And we're to assume that she's kind of taking control and she's in the driver's seat. And of course, she goes beast mode and, sharpshooting, headshot, headshot.
Yeah. I was a little disappointed because okay, going back a little bit, Fennec or Vinnick grabs the needler and
The needler, I saw that. Yeah.
he's loving it. Out of all the weapons around them, Cortana grabs the wimpiest plasma pistols and she dual wields them, which is great. But I was
Right.
just like, come on, I want to see like a plasma rifle or two
Yeah.
like needlers
It
or maybe
was
even
kind
like
of strange.
a marine like assault rifle, something, So or even the hammer would have been cool, like just seeing her pick the hammer up and laying down people. Uh, so yeah, she gets like this massive kill streak with these plasma pistols, just shooting them up.
Yeah. That struck me as weird too, as though they were in the Wild West or something.
Yeah.
Just grabbing a couple pistols. But ultimately, I mean, she wins. She's able to get the Spartans back onto the ship. She's able to grab the artifact. Well, I say she now because it's Cortana under control.
I
Kai
thought about you.
notices.
I thought
Oh, go
about you
ahead.
though because she's fighting, and then you have this army still coming towards you, and then the Pelican is being self-automated, just knocking people out.
Yeah, I
You
was
know,
confused for a second.
you know what I thought about?
What?
And Boba Fett when he goes back against the Rancor instead of Slave One, and you're like, why didn't you just
Oh
get Slave
yeah.
One? I was like, this is a Sean moment right here. When I first saw it come so low, I was like, oh, maybe the Marines are here, you
That's
know.
what I thought.
So yeah, and then
I thought it even could have been Halsey because at this point we hadn't seen Halsey. We'd only seen that she was a clone.
ooh, that would
And
have
I
been
was like,
good.
did
I like
Halsey
that.
come in with her ship to save the Spartans? Like that would be a kind of a cool character beat for her to be like their enemy, and all of a sudden she comes in like Mama Bird and swoops them up.
Yeah,
But ultimately, that's not what it was.
I like that idea. And now that you said that, I even could see like Miranda Keys too. Like
Hmm.
again, that's like a video game trait of hers. I feel like I could see happening 100%.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, that was smart. They get him all in there. He grabs the artifact. I mean, or I guess Master Chief is just he's like back to normal. This is a piece of cake for me. Everyone in. Let's get out of here.
yeah, and Kai notices that Kai because John, if he would have touched the artifact, then it would have went off again or whatever. He would have been incapacitated.
Yeah,
But because Cortana's in control, it just heaves it over his shoulder and goes up the
which
ramp.
it's so weird. So I guess it's not like a body thing. It's like a conscious soul.
That's what I thought. It was linked to like a consciousness. Yeah,
One complaint. I hated how they had the two prophets the whole time floating while this whole scene's going on.
yeah.
Um, Prophets aren't big fighters, but there is a level where you fight them and they fight you back. But
Oh,
why not take a quick shot at them? Like they're here are the two big. They might not even know who the prophets are, right? Maybe they didn't even notice them.
true. Right.
Maybe because they're up there. But I was kind of like, I wish there was more engagement because during the fight scene, you literally see them too, just floating up there, like, okay, let's just watch from our high chair and see what's going
Yeah.
on. But
Yeah, it's
anyways,
interesting. And once again, I think maybe it's just beats. They could have added and fleshed out these scenes a little bit more, had a little bit more character interaction, but they really went for the action in this episode.
yeah,
It was kind of breathless. But at the same time, it was only 46 minutes, where that's kind of been the typical runtime. But I mean, for a finale, you could have gone a whole hour and fleshed it out a bit more.
yeah, I did feel like with the action scene, it flew by.
It did.
And it wasn't even a lot of action to me. I think it was like you're in a scene surrounded by action, but you're not seeing the action, right?
Right. I think that's
Which
fair.
yeah, I mean, I didn't hate, but I wish we would have saw a little bit more interaction on that.
Yeah. And that's about it. I mean, they get on the Pelican, the Spartans do. Riz is all kinds of messed up, but they're able to burn her wound closed.
Yeah, Cortana
Um,
pops that little wire, and I think
mhm.
did she use flint from the gun? I think is what she did
I
to
don't know
light
what it was, but she was
to
like
ignite it.
blowtorching the wound. Yeah.
Yeah, and then even I like a big detail I noticed is like when they took the chest plate off, how heavy that chest plate is, and
Yeah.
you could hear it, and it's just that's good detail because they talk about how heavy the armor is, and only
Mm-hmm.
Spartans can wear it. So that was cool to see. And then yeah, Master Chief just goes up, pilots the ship, um, and then Kai
Well,
goes and checks
Kai
on him.
goes up there, and she's already has her suspicions. You know, she asks. I guess I don't know if she asks Master Chief or she says John. But Master Chief doesn't respond. Just kind of looks in the middle distance ahead of him slash
Y-
her.
Yeah, did he
And
even make eye contact with her through the helmet? No, right?
I don't think so. No, I think just kind of like I was like, ugh.
Okay, so two things before I forget. Another reason why I think it's a modified Pelican is because the seats. I don't know if you just saw this or not, but Master Chief was
Yeah,
already up, like upright in flight mode, and when
right.
she went, her chair went like almost like a conveyor belt up, right?
Yeah.
Which again, the Pelicans in the game, you don't really have that. Second, all the Spartans had their helmets off except for one, Master Chief. So now I'm
Mm.
thinking, I'm jumping ahead here. Well, we're at the end. I think we have our Master Chief now. I think this is the new Master Chief that goes into directly the video games and kind of what we get.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so when now that we have this, now that we have Cortana driving the Master Chief body,
Hmm.
I had assumed that, um, and because Cortana made that promise to John, like, "Hey, I'll find a way, I'll bring you back," and John says, "I trust you." I thought maybe that'll be the next plot point. Like the first thing that they do in a season two is like, "Well, we need to get this actor back." But maybe you're right. I mean, this is a way for them to be more like the Master Chief that the gamers are used to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm Hood or Keys or UNSC, I don't want John back. I like this new. I'm gonna go back and look at his visor information and see how much more efficient he was, like that.
Mhm.
Shoot, put a Cortana in all the other three too. You know what I'm saying? It's you've got
Right,
these
yeah.
super warriors, and you just took out God knows how many Covenant, forces. So
Yeah.
I'm curious because it's completely different now from the video game to where we're at now. But now they can kind of merge the two together with this more serious Master Chief character, no personality. But if Cortana talks through his body, is it his voice? Like that's I'm just so curious. Like
I
there's
was
so many
wondering that
questions now.
too.
There's so many
Yeah.
more questions.
There's interesting ways that they could play this going forward, and I mean, there's still a morality play. I mean, they already, Keys, Captain Keys, and Halsey, they kind of sacrificed their humanity years ago when they did what they did with those kids.
Hmm.
So what's one more thing of just inserting Cortana into all three, all four of these Spartans, right?
Yeah.
It's like you already have gone this far. You might as well just do what you need to do. But at the same time, like they're struggling with that, and I don't think Miranda would let that happen.
Hmm.
Um, there's even a question if they could even let that or do that without Halsey being present. Like, do they have the wherewithal and the knowledge to do the whole Cortana thing again without Halsey being there?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's almost, and again, we're going down through so many plot holes or possible plots. Is
yeah,
could Master Chief just do it all himself now that Cortana's in it? Like, could Cortana just say do the redo the whole thing that she just did? And would she
oh
though?
right.
That's the other thing because she's got morals now and she has a
Yeah.
heart and cares. So yeah, there's so many different ways we can go with this.
And I'm wondering how much of Cortana is still there. Like the Cortana that took control is she still of like the same mind and opinions and feelings that she was prior to going into Master Chief, or because how do you take her silence and not addressing or talking to Kai? I would assume that the Cortana that existed 20 minutes prior would have been like, "No, Kai, it's me, Cortana, and I have to take over John, but I promise I'm going to find a way to get him back, and we'll figure this out." But she doesn't. She just kind of like doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and it could be just like one of those things where she's getting used to it, right? Because even when she took over, she like did like the whole hand thing where she's looking down, and then
Yeah.
boom, she's like a natural, and she's like, okay, I can do this. Um, I don't. I think Cortana is still the same personality wise and everything else. Um, because she's an AI. She got to control the pelican from 500 feet away, right? Or
Hmm.
how far it was. I almost wonder if she's just like in shock still too. Like, did I lose Master Chief? If I tell them I lost Master Chief, what are they gonna do to me? And if they pull me out of him, am I still okay, or is he
Right.
still okay? Do we lose both of us or just one of us? So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
It was giving me big, for some reason, it gave me big Star Trek 2 and 3 vibes, because when Spock sacrificed himself at the end of 2, it was
yeah,
Kirk's mission and his drive at 3 to, if there's any way I can get Spock back, I'm gonna get my friend back.
yeah,
So I feel that, like, that same kind of thing may be heading our way, but we'll see. I am interested. So let's, we went over the finale in full.
yeah.
We talked pretty in detail about scene to scene and what happened this episode. Overall, what, as a Halo head, what are your general thoughts and feelings on this first season of Halo?
Yeah. So I was telling you I was at a dinner before this, and I was talking about the podcast and Halo, and he asked me how the show was, and I said, you know what? I think if you enjoy sci-fi, and you're not obsessed or play a lot of Halo like I do now, I think you'll enjoy the show.
Yeah,
I think eventually all the Halo heads will watch it just out of curiosity.
right.
The only thing is I don't know if they'll get past the first two episodes. So I'm glad I did it. I am gonna watch season two. I want to go back and rewatch this last episode too, just to see the scene,
Yeah,
the fight scene. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy. Your quote about pizza and Star Wars. Even if it's good pizza, good Star Wars or bad Star Wars, I'm still gonna watch it, right, and be part of
right.
it. So
Yeah,
no, I'm excited for season two, and now I want to see how are they going to merge this with the game. What's going to happen? They got me hooked. Do I love it? It's not my favorite show, but I'm still going to watch it. So, which that's what they want.
I'm actually kind of in the same boat where it's like, do I love it? I mean, the other shows that we've covered on this after show here with Chris on our Dad and Rock channel, I've actually looked forward to more. Like, I had to watch them immediately,
Yeah,
like the day that they premiered on whatever streaming service that they're on. Like, I got
yeah,
to watch it. I mean, the Mandalorian stuff, I was watching that in the morning, 7 a.m. before work
yeah,
started. Like,
yeah.
I was
You and
so
I would
excited.
text each other like, "Have you watched it yet?" No spoiler.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
was not like that. Like, I
no.
could, some days we broadcasted Saturday night, and I didn't watch it until an hour before going on Saturday night, and it had already been on Paramount Plus for 2 days.
Chris said something earlier where he was like, "I had that urge to pick my phone up during the last episode."
Mhm.
And I kid you not, the only reason why I didn't use I was on my phone this time is because I knew I'd be doing the show tonight with you. So I was like, I gotta pay attention because
Yeah.
I'm only gonna be able to watch it once or twice. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's I don't know. And it's like if the new Halo game comes out tomorrow, I'm gonna go buy it and try to beat the campaign mode in 24 hours, right? So it's
Right,
like
yeah.
the opposite. Um,
One question that didn't come up during our review of the episode and that I'm curious about, we got 0 Madrigal and Soren and Quan in this episode,
yes,
which is fine by me, honestly, but I'm
yeah.
really surprised given how much time and energy was spent on them this season that they didn't show up at all for the finale. What do you make of that?
So I think the whole Soren thing was cool because you kind of saw like a Spartan escaped and kind of what his life looked like. And as a Halo head, I appreciated seeing the story outside of Reach and just
Yeah.
the Spartans and this Covenant and UNSC. So, because you read about like the Spartans were created to put down like rebellions and stuff like that amongst the other colonies. So,
Mhm.
seeing the other colonies and seeing what it's really like, and seeing who was our bad guy that killed oh gosh, who was that got killed by Soren and the girl.
Oh, the general, yeah, the guy.
Yeah,
That one
yeah, that,
guy that was in, Pacific Rim. I forget
yeah,
his name.
yeah.
Yeah, I know who
He's
you're
a bad
talking
guy
about.
and everything, right?
Right.
But just seeing like his kind of group and kind of the hostile takeovers, I think that was cool to see. Again, kind of like McKee, it was fluff, but it was content fluff that was good. It wasn't like okay, this could have been taken out. I enjoyed
Yeah.
seeing that kind of story. Um, and who knows what happens right in the future with them? Are they to come back? Are they to be part of it? What's gonna happen? I almost thought too, like maybe Halls Halsey will run up on them in a different planet or something. Like could you imagine that?
Right. Yeah. That would
So
be interesting. Yeah, that would be an interesting place for them to go. It seems like Soren and Quan are just sticking to Madrigal and waiting for John to arrive, 'cause, even in her vision the last episode, they said something about John, well, John will be here soon. Which I thought that maybe he was gonna go through that portal in this episode and, he would be there, but that's nothing came of that, so I'm guessing that's more season 2 stuff. But yeah,
Do
I
you
was kind
think
of
they meant
surprised that they
by,
didn't
like,
make it.
her vision that she was having, you know, how they were like, "Kill Master Chief," or whatever? Do you think that's what they meant by him being here soon? I don't remember if that was before or after the vision.
Oh, that's interesting. Like he'll be here soon as like the afterlife.
In your vision, yeah,
Right. Oh, that's
yeah,
interesting. No, I didn't take it that way, but now that you say that, maybe.
yeah. Because you guys kept talking about the portal too that's on Madrigal, and I was like, "That's a good point," and then nothing ever happened with it, right? It's just a
No.
portal, and we have no idea. So I'm sure we'll circle back to them.
Maybe it's just a crossover between the other excellent game, Portal and Portal 2.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is a great game.
Yeah, I do love that game. But as far as a whole a season of television, Chris and I mentioned many times this season that we're not players of the Halo games or anything. I
Yeah,
thought as far as being a science fiction show with interesting characters and great settings, quality special effects. I thought a lot of production value went into it as far as the sets and like the design.
yeah.
Not this particular desert in space, notwithstanding the too clean CG in this episode, but
Shiny
um,
desert.
yeah, very shiny desert. I enjoyed it immensely. I mean, I'm glad that they already okayed a season 2. I'm
Mhm.
glad that I haven't seen, if there's any kind of date for that, if it's just going to be a year from now or what, but
Yeah,
whenever it does come out, we'll be covering it. I'll be watching it, and yeah, I think it was well worth my time as a TV viewer.
yeah. And the best part about the whole episode is Halo wasn't activated, right?
That's right. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So our buddy old pal Chris Regan, who's at Disney right now, here he is. Soon you're gonna see that mug of his covered in pie
It looks like
because
he
that
knows it's happening too because you got Goofy in a chef outfit, right?
he does. Yeah, that pie is on its way. That's so funny. The bet was that Halo itself would be activated by the end of the season, and of course that did not happen.
And I think I was even so confident. I said, I don't even think we'll get to Halo in this season.
Right.
Um,
And really nothing even close to that happened. You were right on the money.
yeah. So, do you have any? I have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen in season two or eventually in the show. Do you have any predictions?
Right now I'm kind of torn. Like I said, I thought maybe that they would make it a focus to bring the John portion of Master Chief back, but now that you say that this is going to be closer to a Master Chief that the gamers are used to, this kind of silent figure or stoic, doesn't take his helmet off, there's no need to. And how many complaints there were about the Halo heads about this John was so or this Master Chief was so different from what they're used to. They
Yeah,
might lean into that, and
yeah,
maybe we don't see this John character maybe until the tail end of season 2.
yeah. What do you think about the Covenant though? Because they just lost their artifact.
I don't know. There were some talking, and Romello, a viewer of this season of the show, of the after show, kind of chimed in here and there, said that there is kind of a third party that we may be able to watch out for, kind of a new or different enemy.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe something like that'll show up in season 2, but I don't know.
S- I see. I don't think we'll see them. I don't think we'll see them in season two. I don't think we'll see them until they get to Halo.
Okay.
Um, but I do think we're going to see the fall of Reach because the Covenant. I think the Covenant are going to find Reach because she's touched the artifact so many times there. There's probably like a pinpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they want the artifacts because the map was incompleted and no one really took a picture of it or wrote it down. So
Right.
um, I'm thinking we're going to get the Covenant at Reach now to take back over and get their answer.
Yeah, well, I think we'll definitely see a reckoning, right? I mean, John even mentions it in this
Yeah.
episode. Reckoning is coming for these characters. Halsey is still a loose thread that's out there. She's a
Yep.
wild card. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But I am excited to see where they go from here. I thought they left it in a good spot as far as all these characters.
Yeah, I really think if they wanted to, they can make season two kind of like the last like pre-season before the video game starts, because how everything
Hmm.
pans out. So, and we might even see Halsey in season two, right? Who
You're
knows?
right.
So there's so many different ways it can go.
I think that's going to about do it for this episode of the Halo After Show. We're going to have one more bit of content Halo related coming out in the next, I don't know, maybe next few weeks, but it's going to be that pie to the face. It's going to be a short show, but we'll definitely let you viewers see Chris getting hit with a pie, because that's a promise.
Oh yeah. Yep.
We love to put that content out there. He's already been hit with a pie in the face one time on our channel. I think that was a bet between he and I, some Christmas related thing.
He just loves it.
Um,
He just loves pie.
he just loves getting hit in the face with pie. But he will be back with me talking about The Boys. The Boys season 3. It's coming out on Amazon Prime here, June the 3rd. That's when it premieres. Chris and I will be covering that show week to week, every episode that comes out. So be sure to tune in on our YouTube channel to watch The Boys after show. That's what we'll be doing next. And beyond that, any final thoughts on Halo?
No, I'm excited for season 2, and we'll see what happens, right?
That's right. Well, Christopher, I appreciate you coming on with us, pinch hitting while Chris is in Disney World. But yeah, we will be back for The Boys. Come here in just a couple weeks.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. See you guys later. Bye bye.